Hi, and welcome to the Mary Jones Show. This is the show where we celebrate life, living, and laughter. I'm Mary Jones. I host a talk show on 5 radio stations in Connecticut, and I am so happy to be with you here today on Women's Radio. And I think, how about we talk a little bit about happiness today? Well, I have just the guy to have this conversation with. He is an entrepreneur. He has been extremely successful. He kind of had everything going for him, but as you will hear in his story, wasn't quite feeling it. Something was missing. We're going to hear his story. He has written an amazing book that I want to share with you, the title of which is The Playful and Powerful WARRIOR Within You, How to Reclaim Your Personal Power and Live a Fulfilling Life of True Adventure. I love the word playful. I love the word adventure. I'm so pleased to welcome to the show G.J. Reynolds. Hi, G.J.
Hi, how are you?
Well, I am doing great. Hey, thanks for joining me today on Women's Radio. I've been looking forward to this conversation.
Well, thank you, and I've been looking forward to it as well. And as a male, I can never talk to enough women. So.
Well, that's right.
I feel pretty special right now.
Well, and you should. You're lucky we even let you on Women's Radio, GJ.
Exactly.
Well, so let's hear a little bit about your story because it's just an interesting one, and my guess is, GJ, it's one that a lot of people can relate to. I kind of set the stage in terms of you are an entrepreneur among a lot of other things, have experienced and enjoyed a great deal of success, but you felt something was missing. Why don't you take it from there?
Well, my book really goes back to about 10 years ago. From 2001 is where I really hit rock bottom. And in a sense, I had some different challenges up and down over the last 10 years. However, what I found is that at that moment of where I was in major depression and suicidal is that, what was missing was I was realizing I was placing myself into the external world and living by the external world's standards and not living within myself. And I wasn't honoring myself. And so I had to learn that I had to honor myself and get in touch with who I am and risk being vulnerable. And I realized being vulnerable is strength. And, obviously women have, most women have mastered, being sensitive and vulnerable, and that's a major strength. And of course, that's an attraction to men. And what I've since learned is that opening up and going within and being vulnerable is actually very powerful. And also, when one person gets within themselves and they're very balanced with that and very congruent with that, the playful side comes out as well.
Well, I love that playful. I love the word, and I want to get right to that, but I want to back up and just comment on what you said because that's very powerful. I bet a lot of people right now are nodding their heads because I think, GJ, it's something that a lot of us can relate to in terms of, we live our lives for others. We live our lives for maybe materialistic stuff. We live our lives for the outside world and not always for ourselves, and it sounds like that's just the road that you've been on.
That is exactly what I was on, and unfortunately, it's a road of destruction at some point, or a road that's going to hit, it's a path that's going to hit the dead end, and you can only have so many things, and things aren't going to fulfill you. And I was a master at chasing things, acquiring things, and I had to have more and more and more of this, more and more of that, and realize it was more and more depressing than the fulfilling. And so most people I know are out there and they're making comments, or commitments to other people. And what I would suggest to any listener is honor your own commitments first and be in that truth before you honor and make commitments to other people.
Well, I love that, and one question that's coming to my mind, and I bet some other people's too that are, again, nodding their head and maybe experiencing this or knowing someone who has experienced it. Once you realize that, yeah, I've been there, I've been in a similar situation as G.J. Reynolds here is describing, how did you know what to do? How did you know what to do first?
Well, at first I obviously didn't because I found myself in major depression and I was suicidal, ready to take my own life. And it was at the point where God just grabbed a hold of me and showed me a vision. And the vision was, here's a better way to live. I'll show you how. at that moment, I was still, what I call broken. I was broken. I was broken mentally. I was broken physically. I was even broken financially, and I was broken spiritually. So everything in my life at that time was broken, and so I really didn't know the answer. And I just had a strong belief that God was going to show me how, and He did. And then bit by bit, the steps that I share in the book, and I tie my own story into the book of here's what worked for me. And then as soon as I wouldn't say I mastered each one, because each one of them still has worked in my life. What I found for myself is that it led to the next step. And once I got to the next step appeared. And so the book, definitely will walk anyone at whatever level they're at, step by step, so that they can find their own steps in their own life.
Oh, my goodness. I'm getting goosebumps. I mean, this is, we're talking life-changing stuff here, obviously. And one of the things, GJ, that I like about your story, and thank you for having written this book because it really is a gift for so many people, is recognizing that we really do have that degree of control over our lives. That, it is up to us. It is not up to the external world to bring us happiness, to bring us a life that we want to create for ourselves. It really is up to us. I love that.
Well, thanks for sharing, and thanks for sharing those. As my friend says, they're not goosebumps, they're God bumps, and I just got some when you sent the gift to other people, and that resonated very well. And you hit it right on the head. Is that everyone has the power. And within their own self to make the choice of what's best for themselves. And sometimes it takes some tough situations or some tough lessons, some not very fun, that opens up the door to say, hey, enough's enough, and now I have to go through a different path to honor myself. And there's power with choice. And when someone realizes they have that own choice within themselves, and it's their choice, not anyone else in the world, there is power there.
That's right. Well, I do want to get back to what I mentioned a little bit ago in terms of picking up on the word playful that you mentioned that is in the name of the title of your book. Again, it's the Playful and Powerful Warrior Within You. Playful and warrior. I don't often hear those words together in the same sentence. I love that. Why the playful part, and how do we get to living a life that is playful?
Well, obviously, one of the things, and it's just I'm talking to a primary audience of women, one of the things that I learned while I was single is that one of the number one attractions that women had for men was that they were vulnerable, playful, happy, humorous. They like to have fun. And obviously I started putting that to the test, and I realized that was true. And so now I'm happily engaged, and I'm going to be married later this year. And,
congratulations.
So thank you. And I know part of the attraction was also the playful side. And I'm a former military sergeant. And one of the things that I realized is that only my inner circle really ever saw my playful side. And however, almost everything I've ever done in my life was so at some point I could go do something and have fun. I would put the fun later in life. And then I thought being fun and playful now, especially in business and being in the military, was a negative thing versus a positive thing. And also I thought it was creating more vulnerability for me instead of a strength. And what I realized is that it is a very powerful thing as well to be playful. And the thing that I learned most important for myself was that all my friends and family and coworkers, when I was happy and playful, they were happy and playful. When I was happy and playful, they were more productive, and things got done even more. And so I learned to incorporate that. However, the number one hurdle I had to overcome was realizing that being playful is a powerful thing and is a fun thing, even when it's coming to something, a matter of being serious. And so I had to let go of that. And so now I try to have as much fun and be as playful every single day and every single minute.
Oh, isn't that great? And what a great way to live one's life. I don't think there are many adults who incorporate playfulness into their lives as much as they probably could and as much as they probably should. And so I love the fact that we're talking about this, and you picked that word to be in the title of your book. And, you know, on my radio show, GJ, I always am throwing out challenges to my listeners. I have monthly challenges. And so let's throw a challenge out to our listeners today in terms of not only paying attention to what you're talking about and what you wrote about in your book, but to really pick up on that playful word and really figure out how everyone can incorporate that into their life, because that is huge in terms of really loving the life you live. Oh, I love all of this, GJ. So a little challenge.
I'm loving listening. Hear what you're saying about it. So it's resonating very well with me. Well, the one challenge I would have, you know, anyone that's listening is, you know, choose that time, make that choice to have some fun, even in the tough times. And it could be even while you're driving stuck in traffic. And I was one of these guys that when I was stuck on the freeway in traffic, although in Nebraska where I'm at living now, there's not a whole lot of traffic. But I've lived on the East Coast, I've lived on the West Coast, and I've dealt with a lot of traffic. And I was like, I'd get so stressed out. And I finally had to have these little games that I play with my mind so that I was having a good, enjoyable time, even though I was stuck in traffic and unable to go where I want to go. So I realized then it's simply a choice. And so I would say have fun, you know, lighten up. And then, you know, when something's serious, I found for myself, it was not to take it so seriously.
Yeah.
And the more I decided to make that conscious choice, the more that things started to lighten up for me. And then the load that I felt like I was carrying lightened up as well.
Absolutely. Goodness. And, you know, I always suggest to folks, and I remind myself of this on occasion, you know, hopefully we all have a little arsenal of tricks that we can do that can take us from feeling stressful to feeling a little happier in an instant. You know, you mentioned about being in your car. You know, I always make sure that when I'm driving in the car, I have like one of my favorite CDs that I can put into the CD player instantly, you know, if I start to feel stressful, and we all do on occasion, don't we? My goodness. And so, you know, play your favorite song. If you're at home, I always encourage folks, you know, remind yourself of your favorite quote, read your favorite passage in a book, call a girlfriend, call a boyfriend, you know, but remember that we can change our mood, we can change our degree of stress quickly if we have that little arsenal at our fingertips.
Most definitely, and those are some great tips there. You know, it's basically changing the negativity or the load or the burden that one may be feeling, and you know, just simply by putting on some positive music or uplifting music, or
yes,
you know, sometimes just driving down the road, there's some good head banging music, and you know, whatever that might mean to the listener.
That's right.
You know, they can be a positive thing, and it can be a positive release. So the key is making it a simple adjustment can open up a whole new way of thinking and increase that personal release. And those are great tools to do.
Yeah. Well, and one final question. I know you talk about in your book, and we've touched upon it a little bit, but it's so important, and I think it's something that a lot of people struggle with. You discuss the importance of living in the now in terms of really staying present-minded, not worrying about the future. That is, I think, for a lot of people, GJ, easier said than done. So how do you do it? What has worked for you?
Well, as I shared with you personally, that was one of in the book of all the things that I've written about. Living in the now and living in the very moment and enjoying the very moment has been the hardest thing for me personally of all the things that are in the book. And because I was such a hard charger and very goal-oriented, and I still am, I would do things to enjoy later. And I'm like, I'll just you know, do whatever I have to right now for the enjoyment later. And instead of enjoying the moment, and then what I also learned is that when I started to enjoy the moment more, I still had time to enjoy it later as well. It also lightened the burden. So what I learned to do for myself is find myself asking these questions for myself. And so I would ask the listeners to ask themselves this question is, what am I able to do right now? And the only thing you're able to do right now is right now. Because you can't do anything 10 minutes from now, 1 hour or a year down the road. You can only live and be in this moment, and you can't control or change anything that happened in the past. And so I would ask everyone to just ask that question, what am I able to do for myself right now? And then it's a key question that says, hey, you need to think about right now. And so that's a question I ask myself, and it's becoming conscious of being in the moment. And there's only three things that we control in life, and most people think they control all these different things. The only three things you control in life is your thoughts, your words, and your actions. And that's happening right now.
That's right. Oh, my goodness. GJ, I tell you, I'm loving this conversation. I'm so pleased that our paths have crossed, and you're someone that I hope to keep in my life, incidentally, so you have not heard the last of me. The title of GJ Reynolds' book is The Playful and Powerful Warrior Within You, How to Reclaim Your Personal Power and Live a Fulfilling Life of True Adventure. Incidentally, you said you're engaged and you're getting married later this year, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have a date?
Ma'am.
Do you have a date set?
I got engaged on 10/10/10, and we're getting married on 11/11/11.
Really? Oh, isn't that great?
And it happens to be a Friday, and so it's a non-traditional wedding, and so we're mixing it up. We're being playful.
You're being playful, you're mixing it up. I love it. Well, relationships and marriages and so on, it doesn't get a whole lot more important than that in life. So that's why I wanted to, before I let you go today, ask exactly if you had a date set, because congratulations. And 11/11/11, so November 11th of this year, you'll be getting married. All right.
Yes, ma'am. It's also Veterans Day, so I get to celebrate two things.
That's right. Two pretty important elements of your life coming together on November 11th of this year. Oh, goodness. So where can folks get your book, and where can folks follow up with you?
They can go to iBooks, so Apple iBooks. They can go get it off of Amazon for the Kindle, and they can also go directly to my website to get the hard copy at powerfulwarrior.com. That's powerfulwarrior.com, and they can get the book right now. They can go directly there.
They can, and I think they should, as a matter of fact. GJ Reynolds, thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate it. I appreciate your time and sharing your insights and wisdom with us. And, hey, thanks for writing this book, by the way. We will keep in touch.
All right. Well, thank you, Marianne. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Take care. And thank you for listening to the show today. I will be back next week with another guest. If you have a question that you would like to phone in to me, leave me a message. The number is 512-827-0505, extension 5961. My website is maryjonesshow.com. Hope you have a wonderful week. And as I always say, please remember, it's very important to believe in yourself. Bye-bye.